Nandini's Villa in the gated community of Silver Palms, Bonacord, Tobago. A 4-en-suite bedroom villa with private pool, indoor and outdoor cooking space, large entertainment area, fully air-conditioned. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or WhatsApp for bookings at 1868-327-0357.
Get your quality home for your lifetime of happiness at Springland Gardens, located at Toby Trace, Avocat. Enjoy our lush location with access to a children's play park, community recreation area. Homes start at $1.85 million with 3 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, fully air-conditioned, camera system, electronic gates, garage, fully fenced, and much more. Call to inquire about our upcoming duplexes. 1-868-792-1155.
Villa Santosh in the gated community of Silver Palms, Bonacord, Tobago. A 3-en-suite bedroom villa with private pool, indoor and outdoor cooking space, large entertainment area, fully air-conditioned. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or WhatsApp for bookings at 1868-327-0357.
श्यावर रामचंद्र की जय। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरु
विश्ववन्दित विजय गोपाल
विश्ववन्दित विजय गोपाल
वेद वेदान्त वेणुगोपाल
वेद वेदान्त वेणुगोपाल
विश्ववन्दित विजय गोपाल
विश्ववन्दित विजय गोपाल
वेद वेदान्त वेणुगोपाल
वेद वेदान्त वेणुगोपाल
गान विलोला राजगोपाल
गान विलोला राजगोपाल
गान विलोला राजगोपाल
गान विलोला राजगोपाल
राधा वल्लभ रास विलोला
राधा वल्लभ रास विलोला
राधा वल्लभ रास विलोला
राधा वल्लभ रास विलोला
जय जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
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 जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
जय 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 जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
हे नंदलाला
हे नंदलाला हे नंदलाला
हे नंदलाला हे नंदलाला
हे नंदलाला हे नंदलाला
जय जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
जय जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
जय जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद
श्री राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन राम
श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन राम
श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन राम
श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन राम
पतित पावन राम हरे जय राघव सुंदर राम
पतित पावन राम हरे जय राघव सुंदर राम
दीनोद्धर जय राम जानकी जीवन राम।
श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन राम।
जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर, जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर। पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर, पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर। जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर, जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर। पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर, पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर। सर्ग स्थिति लय कारण कारण,
सर्व स्थिति लय कारण कारण।
सर्ग स्थिति लय कारण कारण।
सर्व स्थिति लय कारण कारण।
मृत्युंजय गणनायक नायक,
मृत्युंजय गणनायक नायक।
उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर,
उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर।
उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर।
उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर।
गंगाजला जगदीश्वर ईश्वर, गंगाजला जगदीश्वर ईश्वर। जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर, जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर। पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर, पार्वती शंकर हे गौरी शंकर। सर्ग स्थिति लय कारण कारण,
सर्व स्थिति लय कारण कारण।
मृत्युंजय गणनायक नायक, मृत्युंजय गणनायक नायक। उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर, उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर। उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर,
उमापते शिव शंकर शंकर।
गंगाधरा जगदीश्वर ईश्वर, गंगाधरा जगदीश्वर ईश्वर। गंगाधरा जगदीश्वर ईश्वर, गंगाधरा जगदीश्वर ईश्वर। जय जय शंकर जय अभयंकर। तुम हमारे थे प्रभु जी, तुम हमारे थे प्रभु जी, तुम हमारे हो, तुम हमारे रघुजी ओ मेरे प्रियतम। devotee offers himself or herself to God. तुम हमारे हे प्रभु जी, तुम हमारे बार प्रभु बसे कह दो, तू मेरा मैं तेरा. Just for once, Lord, say to me, you are mine and I am yours. Namaste, Sitaram everyone. And on behalf of our family, Anand, my wife Nandini, Geeta, my sister-in-law, and the rest of the members of the family, including of course Ranjana, we welcome you to this shrine, Kuladevalai Pitri-tirtha. In the little booklet there is a story of the shrine, how it emanated, and perhaps you will have time to read it sometime. But we warmly welcome you and thank you for making the time to be with us in this offering of discourses by Professor of Religion, Professor Anand Rambachan, and he's discoursing on Adi Shankaracharya's really remarkable composition, Bhajagovindam. Tonight is our second night, and we are going to begin this evening, having sung some bhajans, with a composition of Adi Shankaracharya, Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Guru Stotram. It is a composition of Adi Shankaracharya, and it's a very blessed Guru Stotram in a special way for myself and Balrup. If I may just tell you a quick story on this Guru Stotram. We were taught this Guru Stotram. In the year 1986, July 13th to July 19th, 1986, when you first discoursed on Bhajagovindam, that was 37 years ago. And Balrup has faithfully kept this booklet. And, we were really astonished by the Guru Stotram when he discoursed on the meaning of this Guru Stotram and everything. And then in the year 2004, myself and Balrup visited the birthplace of Adi Shankaracharya in South India. And there are some steps you walk up in like a circle going up to the top of the building. And while we were going up the building, we knew this tune in the way Anand had taught us. Akhanda mandala akaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. While walking up the steps, a melody started in my head. A melody. And I was perfectly sure that the beat was in my head also. And I left Balrup on the steps and I ran back to the bus where I had my tape recorder just to put on the tape the melody that came to my head. And I always consider this melody in which we are going to sing the Guru Stotram as a blessing from Adi Shankaracharya himself. Gurura Brahma, Gurura Vishnu, Gurura Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Akhanda Mandalakaram, Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatirandhasya Jnanajana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurura Brahma, Gurura Vishnu, Gurura Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Kinchit-characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Chinmayam vyapiyat sarvam trayogyam sacharacharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Gurura Brahma, Gurura Vishnu, Gurura Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. विग्रह तत्वमाल विभूषितः मुक्ति मुक्ति प्रदाता च तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः अनेक जन्म संप्राप्तः कर्म बंध विदाहिनी आत्मा ज्ञान प्रदानेन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः गुरुर ब्रह्मा गुरुर विष्णु गुरुर्देव महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च व्यापनं सारसम्पदः गुरोपादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः न गुरुरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरुरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देव महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः बलनाथ श्री जगन्नाथः मधुगुरु श्री जगद्गुरु मरात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः गुरुरादिरनादिश्यः गुरुपरं दैवतं गुरोः परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देव महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव ॐ हरि ॐ हरि ॐ हरि ॐ So may I now invite my brother Anand to deliver the second night of our discourse on the text Bhajagovindam.
Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarvavighnopashantaye. Namaste everyone and welcome. I add my own words of welcome to all of you to the second evening of our Bhajagovindam Yajna. And I also want to welcome all of those who are joining us for the broadcast on Facebook. I want to also say a very special word of welcome to our family from Chinmaya Mission. We are honored that you have come all the way to join us this evening. And of course, our relationship go back decades. And so it's very special to me to have all of you for the yajna tonight. So, a warm welcome.
We're still using your book. We are still using your book, Jaikaran. And just one quick comment. You know, Jaikaran, this is your signature on this book. When you released the book in that year, you gave me this copy. And you see how I've treasured it.
So as I said, we are studying the beautiful composition of Shankara, known as Bhajagovindam, Seek Govinda. It's a smaller, one of his smaller works. He has written over 300 books, poems, commentaries, but this is one of his well-known works. So last night I spoke a few words about Shankara's life and his achievements, and I told the story of the Bhajagovindam, the incident, the experience that led him to compose this text. Very briefly, he'd just taken his bath in the sacred Ganga. He was going back to his ashram, and he saw a very old man. His hair was grey, he was toothless, his skin was wrinkled, obviously someone on the brink of death. And this man was holding a book in his hands, a Sanskrit book, and he was trying to memorize the rules of Sanskrit grammar. And so Shankara was deeply moved by this experience. Here is this man at the very edge of this life, spending his time memorizing grammar rules. So this led to this composition, Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrinch karane. So now he says, you are at the very brink of your life. You have very little time. Why are you spending it memorizing grammar rules? Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam bhajamudhamati. Seek the divine, because this is what will free you from fear of death. These grammar rules, dukrinch karane nahi nahi rakshati. These grammar rules will not offer you any comfort, any solace, any freedom from anxiety over impending death. And I did want to clarify that he was not condemning him for learning grammar. We should all learn throughout life. We should all be students throughout life. But what he was saying was very specific, that these grammar rules do not free you from the fear of death. For that you need something more, something different. So last night we discussed two kinds of knowledge, apara vidya and para vidya. Sometimes translated as higher para vidya and apara vidya, or lower knowledge. Lower knowledge is the knowledge that we need to function in this world, the knowledge that we need to have a profession, to earn a decent living, to take care of our families, our communities, to serve our nations. But there's also para vidya, the higher knowledge is knowledge of the higher. Para vidya is knowledge of the para, the supreme that Shankara speaks of as Govinda. So seek that also. Don't spend your last weeks or months in this world only learning grammar rules. Seek also the higher, the para. So today we will continue, but whether I finish all the verses that I plan to discuss or not, I want to give you a clue to this poem so that you can study and you can understand it all on your own. So I want to start with something very simple tonight, and then we will go on to the other verses. In the Hindu tradition, when we look at the Hindu tradition as a whole, there are two primary values that every human being should cultivate. And we are better human beings when we understand these two values. So last time, if you take anything from the talk, take vidya, para vidya and apara vidya. But today I want to mention there are two well-known words. They are viveka and vairagya. Viveka and vairagya. Every human being should have viveka and vairagya. And this Bhajagovindam is all about these two words. So what is viveka? It's very simple. Viveka is the ability to tell the difference between what does not change, what is changeless, what is permanent, what is lasting, and what changes, what is impermanent, what is subject to change, what is subject to time. To tell the difference between what is timeless, and there's only one timeless reality, and that is Govinda. We have many names for that timeless reality. Govinda, Ishvara, Bhagavan. The Upanishads speak of it as Brahman. But they're all speaking of the same one reality. The one timeless reality. Timeless means it was not created, and there is no time when it will not be. It was, it is, and it will be. And everything else is subject to change. Everything else is subject to change. So the ability to know the difference between what changes and what does not change is called viveka. Now, knowing that, when we know that difference between what is permanent and what is impermanent, what changes and what does not change, you can have many words. What is infinite and what is finite? Right? What is eternal and what is non-eternal? That should make a difference to us. Not simply knowing, but that knowledge of what is finite and what is infinite, what is permanent and what is impermanent, should make a difference to us. It's like if you tell me the difference, if you taught me as a child the difference between what is hot and what is cold, and you explain to me the danger of what is hot, and yet I keep putting my hand in it, then that knowledge has not made any difference to me. So when I know the difference between what is eternal and what is not eternal, it should make a difference. And when it begins to make a difference, that is called vairagya. That is called vairagya. So when this understanding of the difference between the eternal and the non-eternal begins to influence my life, in other words, when I give the right value, not the wrong, but the right value to the finite and the right value to the infinite, then I understand what is vairagya. So vairagya is the change in behavior that comes about as a consequence of knowing the difference between eternal and non-eternal, which means I give the highest value to the eternal. It doesn't mean that I give no value to the non-eternal, but my priorities begin to change. My priorities in life begin to change because of this understanding. So viveka and vairagya are like the two wings of a bird. A bird doesn't fly if it has one wing. It needs two wings. It needs the knowledge of what is permanent and impermanent, and it needs also to change its behavior because of that knowledge. And then, like two wings of a bird, it's a realignment, if we put it in that way, a realignment of priorities. And this is what Bhajagovindam is all about. Each verse is about one or the other of these values, helping us to develop viveka and vairagya. Every verse you can use this as the tool to understand this text. Without viveka, we will not have vairagya. And without vairagya, viveka means nothing. It's just some words. So Both are necessary. So let us see now in the next verse how these two values apply. This is verse 2.
Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate. Samprapte samvihite kale, samprapte samvihite kale, nahi nahi rakshati dukhim karane, nahi nahi rakshati dukhim karane.
Mudha jahi dhanagam trishna,
Mudha jahi dhanagam trishna,
Guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna.
Guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna.
Mudha jahi dhanagam trishna,
Mudha jahi dhanagam trishna,
Guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna.
Guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna.
Yallabhase nij karmotpatam,
Yallavase nija karmopatam,
Yallabhase nij karmotpatam,
Yallavase nija karmopatam,
Tam tena vinodaya chittam,
Vittam tena vinodaya chittam.
Bhaj Govindam,
Bhaj Govindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate.
So even as Shankara, as we saw in the first verse, he's very careful in his writing, very thoughtful, very intentional in his writing. He didn't ask the old man to stop studying grammar, but he said, in addition to your study of grammar, seek also Govinda, seek the Supreme, seek the Divine. Don't focus only on this, because this does not protect you, this does not comfort you, this does not free you from the fear or the anxiety of death. And here he says also, add something more. This verse is about wealth. What is the proper attitude to wealth? In other words, what does viveka and vairagya mean when we think about wealth? How do we apply it to the acquisition and the use of wealth? Mudha jahihi dhana agamatrishna. It will be unreasonable of Shankara to say to anyone, to this old man or to any human being, give up all of your wealth. You do not need wealth. But this is not what he says, because we know we cannot live without wealth. If you say, I do not need wealth, you will end up living off someone else's wealth. No human being can live without wealth. Wealth means food, wealth means shelter, wealth means clothing, wealth means everything that you need for decent and dignified living. Right. Even those who are renunciants, they have got to eat. And someone has to supply that food. That food is wealth. Someone works to produce the wealth through which one eats, one clothes, one shelters oneself, one travels about. So no one can live without wealth. And it will be unreasonable to ask anyone to give up wealth. But that's not what he says. He uses an important word. Dhana means wealth. Dhana, give up. Jahihi is to give up. Give up. Free yourself, not from wealth. Mudha jahihi dhana agama trishnam. Give up the greed. Give up greed for the acquisition of wealth. Don't give up wealth, but give up greed for the acquisition of wealth. Why? What is the problem of greed? And why should we free ourselves from greed? We can't free ourselves from wealth, but we can free ourselves from greed. Greed here is called Trishna. Trishna means thirst, but it means a thirst that can't be quenched. Trishna means a thirst that you cannot satisfy, that you cannot quench. Now, you can drink as much as you wish, but at the end of it, you are still thirsty. That's called Trishna. You will never be satisfied. Greed is like that, and that's why it's a problem, because it can never be satisfied. A greedy person can never have enough of anything, whatever it is. There is always the desire for more. No amount of wealth, no amount of power, no amount of fame satisfies a person who is in the grip of greed. We all have needs in life. We all have legitimate needs in life that can be satisfied. Needs can be satisfied, but greed cannot be satisfied. It cannot be. It's a thirst that cannot be quenched. So, our tradition, the Hindu tradition, never speaks negatively about wealth. We do not say that poverty is a good thing. Never. Poverty is not a good thing. Poverty is dukkham. It is suffering. That's why, in the 4 goals of life, Artha is one of the 4 goals of life. Artha is wealth. It is a good thing to have wealth, because wealth enables you to do so many things in life. But the problem is greed, which can't be satisfied. So Shankara says here, Mudha jahihi dhanagama trishnam kuru sad buddhim manasi vitrishnam. And with that mind that is free from greed, because when the mind is in the grip of greed, it's a restless mind. It's an unquiet mind. It's an anxious mind. Because you're always comparing yourself with others. You're always measuring yourself by what another has. And so you're always discontent. It's an agitated mind. A greedy mind is a restless, agitated mind. So Shankara says, Kuru sad buddhim manasi vitrishnam. That mind, when you free that mind from greed, Kuru sad buddhim. That is the mind that you can turn to God. Kuru sad buddhim. Turn that mind that is now free from greed to God. In so many texts, whether it's Bhajagovindam, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, they all speak about this problem of human greed and all of its dangers and all of its negative consequences. In one of the questions Arjuna asks Krishna in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichanapi varshneya baladiva niyojita. What is it that causes people sometimes, to do such wrong things as though they are swept away by a violent storm? Anichanapi, sometimes it seems as if they are forced. They do wrong things by the power of something that grips them suddenly. What is it? What is it that causes this kind of behavior? And he says, Arjuna, kama esha. It is greed, Arjuna. Kama esha, krodha esha, greed and anger. It's like a mahashano, it's like a great fire that consumes them, that is ignited and consumes the person in whom it exists. So greed keeps us in a constant state of anxiety. So he says to this man and to all of us, be sure that we don't become victims of greed. And greed, as I said, takes many, many forms. In the Bhagavatam, there is an interesting story about greed. A really fascinating story. So it's about this king, Yayati. And he was greedy, but he had a lot of wealth, but he was greedy for pleasure. For all the pleasures that his body could give to him, good food, taste, touch, smell, everything, bodily pleasure. He was addicted to bodily pleasure. So his big problem was that as he was growing old, his ability to enjoy his life through his body started to fail. Because as we age, our body naturally begins to lose its vitality, loses its capacity, loses its energy to do the things that we can do when we are young. So he became very depressed because he was growing old and he could no longer, his body could no longer give him the kinds of enjoyment and pleasures that he had as a young person. So what to do? So in the Mahabharata, in the story, he goes to his sons, and he has 5 sons. And he asks each one, I'm your father, and I have a favor to ask of you. Would you exchange your body for my own? The Mahabharata, the Bhagavata wants to teach us something. So he goes to his sons, and first son he says, my son, I'm your father, but this is what I want. I want your body. You take my body. Let's exchange bodies. Let's assume, we're not going to ask, if the story is literally possible or anything, but we take it as a Bhagavat story. So the first son says, no, I'm not going to give you my son, my body. Everybody will laugh at me if I were to take your old age and give you my youthfulness. It will be absurd. Go ask your other sons, especially those who you treated very well. Those who were dearer to you than I was, why don't you go and ask them? So he goes to his second son and says, would you give me your youthful body and have my old body in exchange? And his son says, no, father, you asked me to take up old age that destroys not only the strength and beauty, but everything. And if I can't do that, whatever my obligations are to you as a son, but I can't give you my youthfulness for your old age. And so he starts to work down the line of his children. Third son says, but if I give you my body, I will no longer be able to ride a horse or an elephant. I'll not be able to join all of my friends in all of the delightful things that we do. I'm sorry, I can't give you. So the 3 sons refused. And he goes to the 4th, and the same thing happens. And he goes to the youngest, and who was particularly affectionate to his father. But he says, if you take my body and give me yours, I'll give you the kingdom. when I come back, after enjoying myself with your body, I will give you my kingdom. I'm afflicted with old age. I am wrinkled. I'm getting senile. My hairs are gray. And if you take these infirmities and you allow me to enjoy myself a little bit longer, then I will give you the kingdom. Please don't refuse me. So it is said in the Bhagavad, as soon as he touched his son grew old and Yayati became young again. The bodily exchange happened and he became very young. And so for the next few years, he really enjoyed himself using his son's body. He went to the garden of Kubera, the deva of wealth, and he lived there, and he had all of the kinds of foods he wanted and all of the pleasures of life. But that body also started to grow old because every human body grows old. Because he exchanged his son's body, but he didn't say that the body of his son will remain youthful forever. That body also started to grow old until he came back to his kingdom. And this is what the Bhagavata wanted to say. This is what the Bhagavata wanted to teach us. And he says to his son that this is what I have learned. At the end of all of this experience, he finally learned that the greed for enjoyment doesn't satisfy him. Yat pritivyam vriti yavam hiranyam pashava sriyaha. He says, I have had it all. Whatever foods I wanted to eat, anything that the earth could grow, I have eaten, and more than I needed. I accumulated gold and elephants and horses, pashavaha, hiranyam, na duhyanti mana pritim, but none of these satisfied me. I am discontented. I am not at peace. Yayati finally learned the lesson, but it took him a very complex way to come to this wisdom, to come to this understanding. So, wealth is necessary, and we can satisfy our needs, but we can never satisfy our greed. Gandhi had a very famous statement on this, often quoted. He says that this world has enough to satisfy every human need. But this world does not have enough to satisfy one person's greed. Even one person's greed. So this story of Yayati is a good transition to the next verse of Bhajagovindam. Verse 3.
Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam bhaja modhamate. Samprapte samnihite kale, samprapte samnihite kale, nahi nahi rakshati dukhril nahi nahi rakshati dukhril
Nari stana bhar nabhi desham,
Nari stana bhar nabhi desham,
drishtva maga mohavesham,
Vishwamaga mohavesham.
Nari stana bhar nabhi desham,
Nari stana bhar nabhi desham,
सायुविकारम्
मनसि विचिन्तय वारं वारम्
मनसि विचिन्तय वारं वारम्
भज
गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज बोधमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति दुःखिं करणी नहि नहि रक्षति दुःखिं करणी.
So in the verse that I just discussed with you, now I want you to see now, I started off tonight by talking about these two values, viveka and vairagya. So we see how these two values are applied to thinking about wealth. Wealth is not evil. Wealth is not negative. But greed is. So we should understand the necessity of wealth, but we should also understand the problem of greed. And vairagya means freedom from greed. Not freedom from wealth, but freedom from greed for wealth. Mudha jahihi dhana agama trishna. Remember that word trishna. Kuru sad buddhim manasi vitrishna. Yallabhase nija karamotpatam vittam tena vinodaya chitnam. So enjoy that wealth. Wealth is to be enjoyed. Vinodaya chittam, vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Enjoy that wealth. Yallabhase nija karamotpatam, that you have acquired through your own honest labors. That wealth you should enjoy. It is dharmic to enjoy that. It's not contrary to dharma to enjoy wealth that you have gained through your own honest efforts and labor. Of course, you should be generous, you should be compassionate, and you should share wealth with those in need. But it is right to also enjoy the wealth. Now, in this verse, we see he applies viveka and vairagya to the body. Previous verse, what is the right attitude to wealth? Now, what is the right attitude to the physical body? Again, we don't look down or negativize the body. We do not, in the Hindu tradition, speak negatively about pleasure. After all, karma is one of the goals of Hindu life also. Artha, karma, but all of these have to be governed always by dharma, be done in righteous ways. So we, as Hindus, as you know, we love to celebrate things. We love to celebrate life through our festivals, our foods, our art, our music, our drama, our dance, right? All of that is the celebration of life, and that is good. It doesn't mean, that to live a faithful Hindu life doesn't mean that one has to walk around with a sad face all the time and not also enjoy the good things in life. So, even when we think about, Bhagavad Gita says, as far as wealth is concerned, there is nyayena artha and anyayena artha. Nyayena artha is wealth that is accumulated through proper means. Through proper means. And anyayena artha is wealth that is that gained through improper means, by hurting others, taking away the property or the wealth of others. So nyayena artha is what is held up as the right way to acquire and to use wealth. And in a similar way, we speak of dharma aviruddha kama, the pleasures in life that are not opposed to dharma. And viruddha kama, which would be those pleasures in life that are opposed to, inconsistent with dharma, that hurt others and also hurt yourself. So when we seek pleasure, but the pleasure causes pain to another and eventually to oneself, then that is viruddha karma. Karma that is antagonistic to dharma. So here Shankara reminds us an important truth about the body. When you look at the body, your body or someone else's body, nari stana bhara nabhi desham dishtva maga moha vesham etan mamsa vasadi vikaram. Remember, as I said, viveka is the ability to distinguish between the changing and the unchanging. Remember that this body is changing. Etan mamsa vasadi vikaram. So he just puts it this way, it is composed of flesh that is subject to change, that doesn't last forever. Manasi vichintaya varam varam. Think about this. Don't forget that this body also is subject to time. It is born, it grows, it changes, it ages, and eventually it dies. We should take good care of it. We should value it. We should live healthy lives, eat healthy diets and exercise regularly and age in a healthy way. We should not neglect it. It's a great gift to us, a great instrument to us. But we need to remember also that it's finite. And we should not maga moha vesha. We should not be deluded or by thinking that this body will endure or it will last forever. So, Hindu culture is not anti-body, anti the physical body, but it asks that we have a sensible approach to the body, a balanced approach to the body. We practice both viveka and vairagya in relation to the physical body. It's beautifully put in Bhagavad Gita. You know that the spiritual part is not for the one, Krishna says, not for the one who eats too much, but also not for the one who eats too little. Not for the one who works too much, but not for the one also who does not work. Not for the one who has too much leisure, but not for the one who is without leisure. I'm just summarizing an actual verse in the Bhagavad Gita. He commends the middle way, the middle ground. Outside the shrine here, hope when you visit you will walk around and look at the different murtis. But Suraj also put a murti there of the Buddha. I'm not sure how many of you know the story of the Buddha, but it relates also to this particular verse. So he was born as the son of a king. His father had a kingdom in what is now Nepal. His father was a king, an ancient king in Nepal. And he wanted his son to be his successor, to become the king also. So he wanted his son to focus on this only and not be distracted by anything else, so that his son will succeed him in this kingdom. So he kept this boy. His name was Siddhartha. His father's name was Gautama at the time of birth. So he was Siddhartha Gautama. The Buddha wasn't his name. The Buddha is a title. He became the Buddha. Buddha means the awakened one. But it was not his birth name. His birth name was Siddhartha. His father was Gautama. So sometimes we say Gautama Buddha, but his childhood name was Siddhartha. So this father thought of a very interesting scheme to make sure that this boy would become a king. And what did he decide? He decided that he would not let this son experience any kind of sorrow in life. He would live in this palace, he would never go out, and he would not have any negative experiences that might cause him to think too deeply about life. It is said also in one of the stories about the Buddha is that at the time of his birth, the astrologer said that he could become a very great king, or he would walk away from the kingdom also. So his father didn't want him to walk away from the kingdom, so he kept him very sheltered life. But how much can you shelter a young boy? The more he was sheltered, the more curious he became. So he asked his friend, can we go out of this palace? I'd like to see what is there outside. He was in his late teens. Can we go outside? So the story is that he sneaked out on several occasions with his friend to see what life was like outside. And when he went out, he saw for the first time an old person. He had never seen an old person before. His father didn't allow him to see a very aged person with gray hair, wrinkled skin. And every time he'd ask his friend, what kind of creature is this? Who is this? I've never seen a human being like this before. And his friend would say, Siddhartha, this is an aged person, and everybody grows old. This is like a revelation to him. And then he went out again, and the biographer said, on the street he saw, as you see sometimes, in the streets of India, a very sick person, emaciated person, lying. And he would ask his friend, who is this? And his friend said, this is a diseased person, an ill person. And everybody, at one time or the other, is subject to illness. And then the third time he goes and he sees a corpse being taken to the cremation ground, and he says, where are they taking this person? Because he had never seen death before. And his friend says, this is a dead body being taken to the cremation ground, and everyone dies. And then he saw, on the fourth trip, he saw a monk, a sannyasin in saffron clothes. And he said, who is this? And his friend said, this is a monk, this is a sannyasin, someone who is seeking to be free from suffering. And so this boy became very restless. I will grow old. I will die. What is the meaning of my life? And so at age 29, he left the palace and went on this great search, this great quest. And I tell this story because when he first went on this great spiritual quest, he practiced very severe, what we call tapas, very severe discipline. He would fast for long periods. He would hardly eat. Some of the book said, when he pressed his fingers into his stomach, he felt his spine. He had become so thin, so emaciated, so weak. And he was on the brink, perhaps, of death when a woman offered him a bowl of sweet rice. And he regained his strength, and he just summarize the life story of the Buddha, sat under the famous Bodhi tree and became awake. But when he became a teacher, he taught what is called the middle path. That's the religious life avoids extremes. One should not hurt the body and one should not indulge the body too much. Look for the middle ground. So the Buddha's path is called the middle way, the middle path, which is always avoiding extremes. You need wealth, but you don't need greed. You need food, but you don't need to overeat, and so on. The middle ground, which is exactly what we are learning here. So we are not opposed to we don't negativize and ill-treat the body, but we know what the limits of the body are also. It will grow old, and we have to learn to grow old gracefully. So we should not be like Yayati. Yayati wanted to hold on to youthfulness forever, but who can? No one can. So we have to have viveka and vairagya also about this physical body. And this is Shankara's point here. Because Bhajagovindam is addressed to an elderly person, a man at the point of death, Shankara doesn't want us to think that only those who are elderly can die. Death can happen to anyone at any time. And this is the point of his next verse, and he uses this very famous example to make this point.
Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamade. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamade. Samprapte sananvihite kale, samprapte saranihite kale. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane, nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane.
Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam,
Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam,
tanvat jivitam atishaya chapalam,
tanvat jivitam atishaya chapalam.
Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam,
Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam,
tanvat jivitam atishaya chapalam,
tanvat jivitam atishaya chapalam.
Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam,
Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam,
Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam,
Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam.
Lokam shokah tam cha samastam,
Lokam shokah tam cha samastam. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamade. Samprapte sanannihite kale, samprapte sanannihite kale. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane, nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane.
So this is the last verse I will discuss tonight, and we will continue tomorrow. But it's a very famous example that Shankara gives in Bhajagovindam. Nalini Dala Gata. Nalini is a lotus. Nalini Dala, on a lotus leaf. Jala. On the edge of a lotus leaf hangs a drop of water. And this lotus leaf is in a lake, and the waters of the lake are unsteady. So a drop of water on the tip of a lotus leaf in a lake that is unsteady, where the water is moving. Nalini dala gata jalam atitaralam tadvat jivitam atishaya chapalam. Even more uncertain than that drop. That drop of water hanging on the tip of the lotus leaf can fall at any time. If you stand there, you'll see it fall. He says, the life of a human being is even more uncertain. It's like the drop of water on the tip of a lotus leaf. Vidhi vyadhyabhimana grastamana. Even in the midst of all of these uncertainties, we never know. Vidhi vyadhya, when we will lose health. Even health is uncertain. Life is short, but even a short life, health can also be uncertain. He is not, as a teacher, he's not teaching this so that we worry about life. This is not the point. The point is, don't take your life for granted. Don't take your life for granted. Make good use of it, because it is uncertain. It is like a drop hanging on the tip of a lotus leaf. It can be lost at any time. It's precious. Life is precious. Make use of it. Don't waste. Don't waste this precious gift of life. This is the point of his example. Not to make us fearful of death, but to urge us to live life meaningfully, to live life purposefully. No one should ever take tomorrow for granted. I started yesterday with a section of the Mahabharata where Yudhishthira, who is the wisest person he's Dharmaraja, he's knowledgeable about virtue and knowledgeable about ethics. And he asked a series of questions, and we discussed one question last night. He was asked, what is it that makes a person intelligent? And he said, service of the elderly makes one intelligent. So I discussed that. But he's also asked the question, what in life is most astonishing? What is the most astonishing thing about life? Kim ascharyavam. What is it that causes you in life to wonder, that surprises you, astonishes you? Yudhishthira is asked. And Yudhishthira gives a very interesting answer. Ahanti ahanti bhutani gacchanti. Iha yama alayam. Yama alayam is the abode of Yama, the abode of death. So, ahanti ahanti bhutani gacchanti. Iha yamalayam. Every day, we see and we hear and we know that people are dying. He says they're going to Yamalok every day. We see, we hear, we know people are dying. Seshastavaram icchanti. We never think that we will be one of them. We think we'll always be here. He says, Seshastavaram. We think that we are the exception. Kim ascharyam, he says, what is more astonishing than this? This is Yudhishthira's answer. What is more astonishing? What is more astonishing in life than this? Kim ascharyam. Then every day we know that takes someone away. But somehow we resist thinking that it will take us. It is true, it's very hard. It's not a statement of condemnation, but it's very hard to really contemplate one's own mortality. It's not a natural and easy thing for a human being to think of, and yet it's a reality. And so this is Yudhishthira's answer. But as I said, the purpose of the verse is not to cause fear, but to urge us to use our time well. Thinking about death, as Shankara is urging us to do, is not a morbid obsession, but it is a call to get our priorities right. We don't have all the time in the world to do that. Get your priorities right. Determine your values. Practice viveka and vairagya. Apply those two values to life, to how we use wealth, to how we treat the body, to what kind of knowledge we seek. I've spoken many times, and I know you know that quotation very well. Bare bhagya manushatana pava. That this body is a great gift. It's a great blessing. Sadhana dhama moksha karadvara. It is an instrument for the spiritual journey, for spiritual growth. Use it well. This is why he gives us this example of a drop of water hanging on the tip of a leaf. And then he goes on in the next verse to talk about human relationships. What is vairagya and viveka when we think about family relationships? How should we apply those two values? And so that's from verse 5, and I'll continue tomorrow night with that verse. So we will sing the Rudrashtakam. This is a very famous composition of Tulsidas in Ramcharitmanas. 8 verses he composed in praise of the infinite as Shiva. It's a very beautiful composition, but it's the composition of Tulsidas in the Ramayana. This is a composition of the Guru for his student. The Guru composes, recites this for the blessing of his student, the 8 verses of Rudrakshakam. And so we sing tonight as a blessing for all of you who have joined us. Shamishana nirvana rupam vibhum vyapakam brahmaveda sarupam Namami shamishana nirvana rupam vibhum vyapakam brahmaveda sarupam nijam nirgunam nirvikalpam niriham Akashvasam Namami Shamishana Nirvana Rupam Vibhum Vyapakam Brahmaveda Sarupam Girisham Karalam Mahakalam Kripalam
व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
तुषाराद्रिसङ्काशगौरं गम्भीरं मनोभूतकोटि प्रभाश्रीशरीरं स्फुरन्मौलिकल्लोलिनीचारुगङ्गा लसद्बालबालेन्दुकण्ठे भुजङ्गा
नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
चलत्कुन्दलं भ्रूसुनेत्रं विशालं प्रसन्नाननं नीलकण्ठं दयालं मृगाधीशचर्मां वरं मुण्डमालं प्रियं शङ्करं सर्वनाथं भजामि
नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
प्रचण्डं प्रकृष्टं प्रगल्भं परेशम् अखण्डम् अजं भानुकोटि प्रकाशं त्रयशूलनिर्मूलनं शूलपाणिं भजेऽहं भवानीं पतिं भावगम्यम्
नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
कलातीतकल्याणकल्पान्तकारी सदा सज्जनानन्ददाता पुरारी चिदानन्दसन्दो महापहारी प्रसीद प्रसीद प्रभु मन्मथारी
नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
नयावर उमानाथ पादारविन्दं भजन्ति हलोके परे वानरानं न तावत् सुखं शान्ति सन्तापनाशं प्रसीद प्रभो सर्वभूतानिवासं
नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं नमामीशमीशान्निर्वाणरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदैस्वरूपं
प्राणम प्रभु पाहि आपन
नमामीश शंभो नमामीश ईशान निर्वाण रूपम विभुं व्यापृतं ब्रह्मवेद स्वरूपम नमामीश ईशान निर्वाण रूपम विभुं व्यापृतं ब्रह्मवेद स्वरूपम शान निर्वाण रूपम विभुं व्यापृतं ब्रह्मवेद स्वरूपम नमामीश
रुद्रा अष्टकमिदं प्रोक्तं विप्रेण हरसो ये पठानि नरा भक्त्या तेषं शम्भु प्रसीदति तेषं शम्भु प्रसीदति तेषं शम्भु प्रसीदति
विभुं व्यापृतं ब्रह्मवेद स्वरूपम्
जय रघुनंदन जय जय राम
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 जय जगत जननी जानकी रामा
जय जग जननी जानकी रामा
जय जगत जननी जानकी रामा
जय जग जननी जानकी रामा
नव नव कोमल मेघ श्यामा
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 भवहरना भद्राचल रामा
भवहरना भद्राचल रामा
भयहरना भद्राचल रामा
भयहरना भद्राचल रामा
दशरथ नंदन हे परधामा
दशरथनंदन हे परमधामा
दशरथ नंदन हे परधामा
दशरथनंदन हे परमधामा
दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा
दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा
राम राम
राम राम राम राम राम
राम राम राम राम
मत कर तू अभिमान रे बंदे, झूठी तेरी शान रे, मत कर तू अभिमान, मत कर तू अभिमान रे बंदे, झूठी तेरी शान रे, मत कर तू झूठी माया झूठी काया, झूठी माया तेरे पास है हीरे मोती।
आया जग में क्या लेकर तू जाएगा, क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। सोच समझ ले रे मन मूरत, अंत काल पछताएगा। क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। सोच समझ ले ले मन मूर्ख, अंत काल पछताएगा। It will all come to an end. But what have you brought into this world, and what are you carrying from this world? Think about it carefully. क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। सोच समझ ले रे मन मूर्ख, अंत काल पछताएगा। क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। भाई बंधु मित्र तुम्हारे मरघट तक संग जाएगा। स्वार्थ के दो आंसू देकर लौट के घर तू आएगा। कोई ना तेरा कोई ना तेरा साथ चलेंगे, काल तुझे ले जाएगा। क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। सोच समझ ले रे मन मूर्ख, अंत काल पछताएगा। क्या लेकर तू आया जग में, क्या लेकर तू जाएगा। कंचन जैसी कंचन जैसी कोमल काया, मूरख जलाई जाएगा। जिस न्यारी से प्यार कर तूने, वो भी साथ न आएगा। एक महीना याद करेंगे, फिर तो याद न आएगा। क्या picked up the meaning. It's very nice. भाई बंधु मित्र तुम्हारे मरघट तक संग जाएगा, स्वार्थ के दो आंसू देकर लौट के घर तो आएगा. Neither brother nor father nor family anyone goes with you, but you know they will all go there and then come back to home. कोई ना तेरा साथ चलेगा. No one will go with you when you go to that final end. Kanchana Jaisi Komalakai, it speaks about jewelry, everything. Nothing goes with you. And then you know, एक महीना याद करेगा. For how long will you be remembered? Maybe 1 month, maybe 1 year. फिर तो याद नहीं आएगा. And then the memories are no longer there. राजा रंग राजा रंग का पुजारी पंडित सबके एक दिन जाएगा. आँख खोल कर देख बावरे, जगत मुसाफिर खाना है. पावन कहे सब पाप पुण्य, यही अंतिम शांत निभाएगा. क्या लिखकर तू आया जग में, क्या लिखकर तू जाएगा. सोच समझ ले रे मन मूरत, अंत काल पछताएगा. क्या लिखकर तू आया जग में, क्या लिखकर तू जाएगा. क्या लिखकर तू आया जग में, क्या लिखकर तू जाएगा. So we now have our Arti, and let me also take the opportunity to thank you all for coming this evening and for joining us also on the Facebook. So Geeta and Nandi will perform the Arti for us this evening. This is a Hanuman Arti. कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया का, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया का, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया का. मेरे राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम. मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम. अपने राम जी से कह देना जय सिया राम, अपने राम जी से कह देना जय सिया राम. कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम. मेरे राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम. दिनहीन से सहारे महावीर तुम हो, दिनहीन से सहारे महावीर तुम हो. अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो, अपने भक्तों को जगाते तकदीर तुम हो. अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो. हर दुखिया के हाथ तुम लेते तो थाम, हर दुखिया के हाथ तुम लेते तो थाम. मेरा राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम. कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम. महावाली महायोध्या महासंत तुम हो, महावाली महायोध्या महासंत तुम हो. लाखे संत तुम हो, लाते सुख हुए भागो, मेरा संत तुम हो, लाते सुखे हुए भागो, मैं बसंत तुम हो। तेरे भक्ति के आत्मा को मिलत या राम, तेरे भक्ति को आत्मा को मिलत या राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, की जो राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। पूरी सदा ही हमारी हर आश करना, पूरी सदा ही हमारी हर आश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना। दोनों चरण तुम्हारे है लखा सुखदाम, दोनों चरण तुम्हारे है लखा सुखदाम, मेरी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम। ओ की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम, मनी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम। मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, अपने राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम, अपने राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम। की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरी राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरे राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम।
कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतेर्स्वभावात् करोमि अन्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम।
सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
पवन पुत्र हनुमान की जय। बोल भाई सब संतन की ओम जय जय सीताराम।
Nandini's Villa in the gated community of Silver Palms, Bonaccord, Tobago, a 4-en-suite bedroom villa with private pool, indoor and outdoor cooking space, large entertainment area, fully air-conditioned. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or WhatsApp for bookings at 1868-327-0357.
Get your quality home for your lifetime of happiness at Springland Gardens, located at Toby Trace, Avocat. Enjoy our lush location with access to a children's play park, community recreation area. Homes start at $1.85 million with 3 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, fully air-conditioned, camera system, electronic gates, garage, fully fenced and much more. Call to inquire about our upcoming duplexes. 1-868-792-1155.
Villa Santosh in the gated community of Silver Palms, Bonaccord, Tobago, a 3-en-suite bedroom villa with private pool, indoor and outdoor cooking space, large entertainment area, fully air-conditioned. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or WhatsApp for bookings at 1868-327-0357.